Chelsea eyeing a summer move for Nico Williams, and could Tuchel return? Hello there guys, Daniel Childs back here again for another episode of Let's Talk Chelsea. Hope you're doing well on this Wednesday. We've got some transfer rumours, what that could mean for the upcoming summer for Chelsea Football Club, and then also, because we were speaking about Pochettino's future yesterday and potential replacements, a lot of people are getting excited about the potential of a Tuchel return. I'll give you my thoughts about that as well. I think the first place to start is Matt Law's report in the Telegraph today about Nico Williams, the exciting winger at Athletic Bilbao. Apparently Chelsea are eyeing a summer move, and although Matt Law reports an out-and-out striker will be Chelsea's priority, as we've kind of suspected, he mentions not only the most obvious name and target, Victor Osimhen, he also mentions Benjamin Sesko of RB Leipzig among their top targets. The club have been impressed by the progress of winger Williams. Given how expensive a striker will be, a move for Williams may depend on how successfully Chelsea can create funds by selling players. The 21-year-old has a release clause in his Bilbao contract set at around £43 million, which is relatively affordable, but his wages are said to be expensive. It is believed that Williams earns well over 100 grand a week after tax in Spain, which would place him among Chelsea's highest earner. And then I think what is very relevant is Matt Law brings up the potential question marks over the futures of Raheem Sterling and possibly Mykhailo Mudryk, because he does start on the left, and we will see whether those two players have a future beyond this season at Chelsea. Nico Williams, despite being very young, actually has more experience than some of the young, inexperienced players Chelsea have actually bought. I mean, this is someone who this season has scored quite a few goals for Bilbao. He had a good performance at the weekend. He is someone that I regularly see on my timeline being brought up for the output he has brought to Athletic Bilbao, and then on top of that playing internationally as well. So again, sometimes we do speak about the inexperience with players, and it isn't quite fair sometimes, because just because a player's young, they may have actually had quite a bit of football, and I think Williams very much falls into that category. It does make me laugh that if you're looking at like a release clause of 43 million, which is around the price Chelsea paid for Cole Palmer, you can see how the market's kind of broken, because no way, if we're looking at the output of Nico Williams in La Liga compared to the output of, say, Mykhailo Mudryk this season, that those two players should be as wild away from each other in terms of a transfer fee. And it just shows you, as again, how weird the market can be. But it doesn't surprise me that Chelsea would be looking for a wide player. I mean, I personally think it is one of the positions I'd be looking to strengthen this summer. And really, what is the main objective of this summer for Chelsea Football Club? And for me, it is about bringing proven quality and experience. And sure, 21-year-old doesn't really scream that. It's not a 25-year-old, it's not a 28-year-old, but it is someone who maybe could offer more of an instant impact and also fits in with what the club is aiming to do with their transfer strategy, which I don't totally agree with. I would say that, Chelsea also have to realise that if you want to buy a quality of player, you are likely going to have to pay over 100 grand a week for those players. Like that's just the way the market works. And it's the flaw in Chelsea's strategy of trying to keep and cap wages under a certain level generally, because either the players you currently have are going to be good, that they're going to look at their wages compared to other top players at other top clubs, and they're going to go, either should I leave or I'm going to be asking for an improved contract. They are on long contracts, but that is something that has always been kind of unclear in this strategy, is it doesn't really give much room for fluctuation over a player's quality over a longer period of time, because you can buy a player for a smaller transfer fee, put them on wages that are not the highest in the squad, but what if that player in 2 to 3 years suddenly turns out to be one of the best in the Premier League? Like there's a reality that their agent themselves are going to be looking at their situation and going, why aren't I being paid as high as some of the other players, right? And that is something that's a reality. And as well, you've got to remember, as Chelsea found out when they signed Kepa Arrizabalaga all those years ago, Athletic Bilbao have a very unique situation at their club, so they want to be well compensated when they do sell players. But I think 43 million in the current market for what the output Williams has brought to that club is not ridiculous at all. I mean, for a fee, that seems like something that Chelsea should be looking at. Compared to what you'd pay for, say, Pedro Neto, a player who I think would be a really good addition for Chelsea this summer from Wolves. I mean, Neto, you're probably going to be paying 80 million. So, you're paying another 40 million on top of that. You may even be forced to pay a little bit more for Pedro Neto. So of course it's not going to be Premier League prices, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts because it's a player that interests me. And I know, I've seen some tweets from some people saying, I think it was Dougie Critchley of Football Daily. I know some Chelsea fans were kind of having a go at him. He tweeted, if I'm Nico Williams at this stage of his career, I wouldn't be going to Chelsea. And I think that's a fair point. Chelsea is a chaotic place, and not every young player who's come to Chelsea in the past year or so, it's the best move. I think Mudryk, ironically enough, given the position he plays in relation to Williams, is the best example here. But actually, when you look at this, is the weird thing about Chelsea and the current mood of Chelsea and Chelsea fans and the discourse we have, is that actually you look at a lot of the young players, and I mean, I wouldn't say all of them you can say have made really terrible moves. I mean, maybe they could have stayed at their club and from like a results point of view of where they are in that league table could have been higher. Like Cole Palmer, for instance, would be competing for a Premier League title, but he probably wouldn't be the big player at Man City, as we know, and that's why he wanted to make a move. And I saw some discourse earlier in the week that I disagreed with, like trying to make out that Cole Palmer has regressed. He hasn't regressed. He is a young player that's going to go up and down, but this is his first big season as a regular starter, getting regular Premier League minutes, and he is Chelsea's player of the season so far. He is contributing on a regular basis. Malo Gusto has continued to develop properly and looks like a really, really good addition. Petrovic looks like a great find. Disasi has his ups and downs. He's a bit older than some of the other players, but you look at Moises Caicedo too. I think for the price tag, yeah, sure, you should be expecting a level of performance, but I think he has been a decent addition for Chelsea this season. And Nicholas Jackson is the one that really stands out to me of like, does he regret moving to Chelsea? He's someone now that could hit 15 goals for Chelsea in his first Premier League season. So that in itself is not a bad thing, but it's going to be interesting to see with Osimhen, with Sesko, with Williams and potential other targets where Chelsea go this summer and who can make way. Mudryk, does he have a future at Chelsea? Raheem Sterling, is this the time to move away? Because I think, if you are purchasing someone like Williams who's going to have a higher wage a week, then you have to look at someone like Sterling who does have very high wages. I think the highest wage earner currently at Chelsea, over 300 grand a week. So that in itself is an issue. The other thing I want to speak about today is, of course, Thomas Tuchel doing Champions League magic again last night for Bayern Munich. Very good performance to overcome Lazio. And even with that, even if he wins Champions League, we know he's leaving Bayern Munich. And Bild in, of course, German outlet is reporting that, Tuchel's open to coming back to Chelsea potentially, but it's kind of hard to know whether Chelsea's hierarchy would basically admit their mistake and be humble enough in quite a short period of time to turn around and bring Tuchel back. And I tweeted out the question, would people want Tuchel back? It's very mixed. I'd say it's more positive than negative, but it does surprise me how it's not unanimous. And I think that's actually quite refreshing, really, because people are kind of pointing to relevant things like the end of his time at Chelsea, the style of play, the current group of players we have, from an attacking point of view, how that kind of being one of his biggest struggles at Chelsea. And actually, when you look at some of the attacking players we've seen this season and their development, and we were just talking about, would we see a regression with a Cole Palmer? Would we see a regression with Nicholas Jackson? How would, I'd fear if we signed Victor Osimhen, we'd have a similar situation with Tuchel with Osimhen that he had with Lukaku, where he misprofiles the player and the player gets limited touches and we don't get the best out of him. But there is an emotional attachment, obviously, of Thomas Tuchel and people feeling regret that situation ended far too soon. I spoke about this on Morning Blues a few weeks ago. I'm personally of the belief that I think Tuchel would have been sacked eventually. I think we would have parted ways with him eventually. And unless he can prove that his style and approach is better over the course of a Premier League season, and sure, you have to throw it in there that his kind of output in a Premier League season would be a lot better than what we've been doing over the past 2 seasons. But in the long term, which is what we should be looking at, is it any more than a cup, manager, someone who is going to get you to finals, which you cannot, underwrite. You cannot just dismiss. That's obviously important. But in terms of actually developing a squad over a longer period of time and actually not ending up in the same place we did with Tuchel would be my concern. I do wonder though if Tuchel is going to be this ownership's Mourinho, in the sense that he is, someone that eventually will return and destiny will make it so. It may not be this summer. It may be far too soon for that to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the Bowley Clear Lake era, we get Tuchel Part 2. But again, let me know your thoughts. That is it for today's show. Please let me know your thoughts as ever in the comments below. Another day closer to the weekend, and we'll start to look towards that Newcastle game on Monday. All the best.